Today's explorations are assisted by Sucrum's Brewing's Fade to Black Oatmeal Stout. They call it rich, malty, and velvety. Aromas of roasted coffee and dark chocolate, hints of toasted oats, smooth and creamy. All sorts of adjectives. And a very nice local stout it is. So today I am taking a closer look at this Creality Space Pie, they call it. It is a filament dryer for 3D printing. This is kind of hard to do because this thing is bigger than my workspace, but just bear with me. So inside, we have a couple of rollers for your filament spool to sit on, because this thing can also let you print directly out of it. There's a little bung on the top where you can feed the filament out through the PTFE tube chunk that is included with it. That's nice. That way, if you got a long print, you don't lose your low humidity environment for your spool of filament. Then in here, there is an air vent there and an air vent up there, and another little vent there with a device behind it, which I suspect may be the humidity sensor. Around back, there's just the power switch and the power plug. Of course, it comes with an included power cable, in my case for the North American standard. Down on the bottom, we have a little bit of information. It is the Creality Space Pie Filament Dryer for FDM filament. AC 110 volts, 50 or 60 hertz. That's the model that I got. There is a 220 volt version available. Temperature control range between 45 and 70 degrees Celsius. You can use either 1.75 millimeter filament or the 2.85, which is less common these days. And the whole thing is supposed to draw 145 watts max. So the front panel just has a soft touch power button here on a little touch screen. Brings up a menu and some information. Currently inside the box is 27 degrees Celsius and 35% humidity. At the moment it's set for PET-G, which warms up to 60 degrees inside. There's a timer mode. We have an up and down buttons and a little menu button. So if you tap that, it moves the arrow around so you can adjust either the time or the material or PV and SV. I'll have to look those up, I'm not quite sure. But if you go into the material one, you can scroll through the different types of material. It has presets for polycarbonate, PA, PET, PLA carbon fiber, PET-G carbon fiber, PA carbon fiber, PLA, standard boring hole PLA, TPU, the flexible stuff, polypropylene, ABS, ASA, and back to PET-G again. Okay, the SV allows you to fine-tune your temperature setting within whatever you're set to. According to the unit, the PV is just for switching temperature units. Okay, so I'll just leave it in Celsius because that's what almost the entire world uses, so I'll just keep it with that for now. But before I get into testing this thing too much, I think I want to just take a look inside and see how it does what it does. So let's grab a spudger, and I think there's probably screw holes underneath these rubber feet. So we'll just pry those out of the way and see. Yep, there we go. So I think with those 4 screws out, the bottom should come off, I think, and we'll see what's in there. Seems like there might be a fastener or something underneath this touchscreen. I don't really want to mess with that because it's all touchscreen controlled, so I think we'll just peek in under the skirt here and call that good enough for now. So initially what I can see is all the connections to the power connector and the switch are on insulated crimp terminals. They all appear to be tight on there, so that's good. And it looks like we have a little thermal cutout switch there that the power goes through. And then down here, a little squirrel cage blower fan. And I can't see any further into there, unfortunately. Which is a little disappointing because the other Creality things that I have, you can take them right apart and put them right back together again. So I guess all we have to go by is what we can see through the edges. So let's put this thing to the test. as a control test, I'm going to take this spool of PETG, which has been chilling out in this bag with all of the desiccant for probably over a year. However, the bag seems to have sprung a bit of an air leak or something. It's sitting right now at 43%, which is not ideal. Regardless, I'm going to put this into the printer and print my usual Kelly Cat and just see how it comes out. A test that I'd like to try with this thing is just to run it with my little temperature and humidity thing inside it and see how closely this thing agrees with the numbers on the screen of this guy. So I think I can just put him in there. I think that will be visible kind of through there, maybe. Anyway, currently this thing says that it's seeing 41% inside, and this one is saying 42. Let's see now. Let's run it for an hour and see what happens. Okay, here is the wet PETG one. Oh, his feet broke off. That's not performance. Those overhangs are a little ugly under there, but not too bad. Guess we'll see what the difference is when I print the post-drying one. Okay, an hour or so has passed. A little bit longer actually, because the temperature's coming back down, but it does say that it's 20% in there. And that thing also says that it's 20% in there. Although I guess that's good enough to say that it's working. So, I will take my spool of PETG and throw it in there. And we will set this to PETG, just straight up PETG. There it is, so it dries it at 60 degrees. And how long should I run this for? Well, maybe I'll give it about 4 hours or so. Time mode, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. I don't know if that'll be long enough. We will see. I suppose I could consult the manual. It suggests PETG at 60 degrees for between 4 and 8 hours. So we will do that the minimum, which is 4 hours, which I already did. Cool. We'll come back later and see what happened. And I guess try and print with that too, and see if that turns out any better than the one that we just printed. Okay, time has passed, and we're down to about 13%. So let's see how this prints now. And of course, to give it the best chances of success, I am going to run the spool inside this unit running, and then connected up to the printer, and here we go. Let's see if that layer adhesion is better than it was the first time. Alright, let's see how easily this guy comes off the bed. Oh, he's pretty stuck down, more than the other one was. Just... yeah, that wasn't so bad. I think that's better. Certainly better layer adhesion in the feet. Let's take them over to the bench and look at both of them side by side. Let's take a closer look at these two cats. This is the one that was printed before drying, and as you saw, the layers did not stick very well. Matter of fact, it stuck better to the bed than it did to itself. And even with the pieces that still remained attached, they kind of delaminated when I was pulling it up. So that is not ideal. Let's get those bits out of the way and take a look at the underside and the overhang of things. So there is the underside of the tail, which is never perfectly smooth on any print that I do. The front face of the tail is a little bit rough. That face isn't too bad. Underneath here there is a little bit of stringing and stuff. Not stringing, but like hanging down strands and whatnot. Compared to the one that was printed after drying, see the underside of the tail is still a little rough. This face is a lot better though. back looks good. And down in here, there's a couple of little loops from the overhang, but I think it's a lot better. And of course, it didn't delaminate when I was pulling it off the bed. There's the two of them side by side. There's wet, there's dry. And looking at just the top edge here, the wet one is a little bit more bumpy and stringy and stuff compared to the dry ones, nice sharp top edges. The faces are quite similar. This little 45-degree overhang under here is a little bit rougher on the wet one. And the tails, this is the wet one, that's the dry one. Yeah, I think that makes a visible difference. And Pet G does really want to be dry. This is what PLA looks like with the same print. Not sure why that guy got a little booger on his ear. But yeah, you see pretty much every time I print with this model, that overhang on the tail gets a little bit rough. But these are a lot smoother on the underside. So yeah, and that's PLA, that's just standard. But that's about as good as that print gets. And these two were printed with the same G-code. The only difference is that Pet G was at whatever the ambient temperature is. I can't remember, that was a couple of days ago. And this one was after drying for 4 hours. So I think it was a worthwhile investment. You guys can just go back and join my army of cats back there. One other thing I want to experiment with before I pack that Pet G away into a vacuum bag is to take a bunch of my desiccant packs that were obviously no longer doing their job in this bag that I had the Pet G in, and I want to put those into the machine and let them sit in there for a few hours to try and dry them down themselves. I don't know if I'm going to use these big bags or not, because these are the ones with the kind of clay-like, kitty litter-like material that is leaking all over the place. I think I'm just going to stick to the little silica gel packs. That should be more than adequate. I'm just going to toss these in here. I'm going to have to stir them around a little bit. I probably should have them sitting on some kind of a grate or something just so that they're not blocking each other, but I'll move them around a few times during their cycle. I think I'll just run them at PLA settings for an hour. I'll come back every 20 minutes or so and stir them up and see what happens. Okay, some time has passed and it has dried down. I made a few changes while the video was paused. Instead of having all those desiccant packets in, I just put a couple in, and I put this spool of filament back in so that it would maintain its dry. So let's get that into a vacuum bag quickly. I'll toss one of those in for good measure and see if I can get this thing sealed up better than I was able to before. These valves are a little bit tricky to get a good seal against, but I will give it a shot here. There, I think that ought to be good, and it's not really warping the spool very much. But with those two desiccant packs in there and the vacuum in there and everything dried down, I think we should be okay. I will have to get one of my kids who's got better eyes than I do to check these colored dots on the Hue monitor strip, because I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be seeing. Apparently it says danger if azure, brown if dry. Mule colorblind eyes, don't know what that means, but for now, I think that should be good. I'm not sponsored by them or by this thing. They didn't send it to me. I bought it with my own money, well, with the proceeds of YouTube. So thank you, those of you who don't have an ad blocker or who are helping me out on Patreon. So this is mostly just talking about generally why we need filament drying, because wet filament can do nasty things, as we kind of saw with a cat experiment. Here they're talking about their PTC heater block inside. Okay, there it is. We didn't have to take it apart to see it. There's where it is. So that is probably those two white wires that were going into that block in front of the fan. And this is in the manual, and I think I showed it to you earlier, but here are the recommended temperatures and times for drying various different types of filaments. I did PET-G, and I did it at the recommended 60 degrees Celsius for 4 hours, and it seems to have worked out pretty well. So as we saw during the mailbag video, this is currently on sale for $69 Canadian. There was a timer on it the last time I looked at it. It doesn't seem to be there anymore. That's cool. Oh, they have a bigger brother of it as well. I looked at that one, but for the amount of filament that really needs drying that I use, I didn't think the dual width one was worth the extra, but it is available. I'm going to have a link down below. It will come to Creality in general. Yes, it is an affiliate link, so I will get a little kickback if you buy one or anything from Creality's website. But as I said, they're not sponsoring it. They didn't send it to me, and I can say whatever I want. And I think I am happy with this Space Pie unit here. Weird name, but it seems to do the business. Have you got experience with other filament dryers that may work better than this, or have you played with one of these and have you got any gotchas that I should watch out for? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching this. I hope it's fairly quick. We'll see when I edit it. This video, and thanks for watching. I will talk to you later. I don't have a beer there. It was gone days ago. Anyway, whatever. Bye.